like when they knock his head off, he's suddenly like spurting milk out everywhere, and so it's revealed.
Milk is a strong word. They're terrible at their
There's
job.
only one person that knows what they should be doing, and nobody wants to listen to her.
From this point forward, this movie becomes a blur of me just waiting for everybody to die so I can stop watching it.
Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
Are we going?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
It's difficult because we've set this up in such a way where you're starting the recording, but then I'm supposed to start talking first.
Should I go like, action?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, action.
Okay, work. Hi, I'm the shockingly delicious alien placenta, doll thighs.
And I'm not being paid off by the Russians, unfortunately. Dorcas whore.
Unfortunately. I wish you were.
Me too. I'd be making a lot more money. Anyways, and we're the final bros.
Oh, we're the final bros. And today we're going to be talking about Alien.
Yeah, 1979. Thank you for meeting me at the Blockbuster so that we could return this film to the shelf.
I mean, I'm going to move in here.
So much space. There's so much room.
So much room for activities. I need to, you know what? Tell me about your relationship with this movie.
Okay, yeah. Before we start getting into plot, I love this movie. This is one of those movies where I'm not alone in this opinion where I view this as like, it's a classic. I still think it holds up pretty well. The special effects still look great. I like the cinematography. Like it has such a great atmosphere to it that like I never get tired of it. And I think it does a lot of things right where a lot of like alien creature feature movies, like it sticks out from the crowd for me amongst a lot of other movies that are similar to it. I personally really love this movie.
Okay. This is my first time watching it, and I found it almost insufferably boring. Just letting you know.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I knew. Because I had to sit through the movie with you complaining the entire time.
I'm not even joking when I tell you, when I looked back at my notes, I was reviewing my notes. I can't even count how many times I just wrote, I hate space. I wrote that like 10 times.
Do you think your own personal relationship with space in general has colored your opinion of this movie?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I will say just off the bat, I'm extremely biased. I don't like sci-fi movies. I don't like hard sci-fi. Like I don't like Star Trek or Star Wars or any of that stuff. I just don't care. I don't find it interesting. I don't care about space. I don't want to go to space. I don't want to think about space. If anything, space makes me like anxious. It's scary and full of wonders, and I don't think we need to go there.
One thing I will say about this as a sci-fi film, I too can sometimes, sci-fi is not always my favorite. One thing I do appreciate is that the movie doesn't bog itself down with trying to explain a bunch of advanced technology to us constantly, like a lot of sci-fi movies do.
That's fair.
More focused on the characters and like their drama and stuff, more than being like, look at this cool fancy technology that I'm going to explain to you, and it's, you know.
I just feel like I don't ever, at no point in the movie was I like scared because I'm not in space.
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
I understood like the tension and the claustrophobia and all of those sorts of like feelings.
Like you can't escape, like, you can't run away from this thing.
Yeah, but at no point was I like, wow, this is so scary. I'm afraid for my life. because I'm not in an alien spaceship myself personally.
Mhm.
I found it unrelatable. Sorry.
No, I think that's fair because like typically horror plays off of your own fears, and I don't think your fears involve being trapped on a spaceship with an unkillable alien threat.
To be fair, if I was on a spaceship, I would be having a panic attack at all
Yeah.
times. Like the idea of being on a spaceship is terrifying. I don't know why anyone wants to do that, but I'm not on a spaceship.
Mhm.
So unless I'm literally kidnapped and forced to get on a spaceship, that's the only way that that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. So like, I just did not find it relatable in that regard. But I will say there were some things I did like about the movie. And I think I understand, especially after doing more research on the elements of the movie that I found really fascinating. I understand why people become so obsessed with this movie, because it's like a treasure trove of like symbolism and theme, and it covers a lot of really, I would say, unique sort of topics, allegorically speaking. Like aside from the fact that it's just literally a movie about aliens, like the undertones of what's going on,
violent like undertones to everything is also
and the pregnancy and
upsetting.
the birthing, and there's so many like theories about like the metaphor for like abortion and all that kind of stuff that's like happening throughout the film, which is interesting. It's not something that I think is tackled often in horror.
No, not typically,
especially these days. Although who knows, with everything going on in America with like abortion laws, it's very possible that it might be like it might make a resurfacing of sorts in horror. But do we want to talk about the plot? Do we want to go through the plot of what happens with Alien?
Because like we'll get into how it gets into, because like I would say like there was a heavy emphasis.
Ripley's mouth.
Yeah. But like I will say there is a heavy emphasis throughout the movie. I mean, kind of subtly, but like it's very prevalent how like we are exploring the life cycle of this creature, including like how it makes its babies, which is important. But yeah, so we start out and we are getting these sweeping shots of the ship that they're on, and everything's like shut off, like it's cruising through space. They're like long haul space truckers. They're like blue collar workers, and slowly the ship is turning on.
And later in the series, do we ever find out like what this job pays? Because like there's no way that this job is worth
like the shares that they get. I assume they get paid better than the people who are on the planets. We'll get to that too, because like we do get to see more of like planetary life under these like corporations.
And at this point in time, I've only seen this. Well, I saw Prometheus, but that's like a different thing.
Prometheus is completely different.
I don't have context for the whole world of Alien at the moment.
You'll learn more in Aliens, and then we'll learn even more when we watch Romulus, because I haven't seen Romulus either, but I do know it does put an emphasis on like showing you what life is like on like a planet for people under the corporation.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the ship is starting to come to life. Like things are turning on, computers are turning on, machinery's turning on, and it sort of establishes most of the areas that we're going to be seeing throughout the film, like the different parts of the ship, all the different rooms, and then it starts to show off like the characters one by one as they like wake up from cryo sleep.
Yeah, and they wear their ridiculous underwear.
Yeah, they wear their silly 1970s underwear.
The underwear in this movie, because like there's multiple scenes with underwear, and like one of the most important scenes of the movie happens with a character just in their underwear, and like the underwear choices are insane, and I don't know if there's any deeper meaning to that or if it's just people in this like 70s wore ridiculous underwear.
I think they just wanted to be comfy in their cryo sleep.
In their insane, like ill-fitting granny panties.
I don't know. She seemed comfy.
Okay. Great.
But yeah, anyways, the crew's being woken up and they're all kind of confused because they're like checking their location because they're on their way home from their shipping job. So they shouldn't be woken up until they're almost to Earth again. But they're like in a completely different like star system. And so they're all confused. They're all annoyed because they're like, I want to get the fuck home and get paid.
I would be so pissed if I was like, if I did my job and I went to sleep and then when I woke up the next day, my job would be done. But then I woke up the next day and I had more shit to do. Like, that's awful.
Yeah.
Nightmare situation.
But like they got woken up because there was a transmission being detected that indicated like intelligent life. And so as per space laws, apparently, if you, I mean, I guess it's not very different than like if you're in a ship in the ocean and you receive a transmission, you're supposed to go help them. You're supposed to go see what's up. Like, because they're a ship traveling through the space, they receive a transmission, they're supposed to go check up on it. And they don't really want to, but they reluctantly decide to go land on this like unknown planet.
Where did the transmission come from?
It was coming from the derelict ship, the alien ship that was putting out the transmission.
I guess I don't fully understand. The alien, like the xenomorph, is not from that planet, is it?
No.
It's just a creature that that breeds on these like spaceships and travels like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, technically, you learned more about that in Prometheus, but
I don't remember.
But you don't remember. Yeah. It doesn't make sense when you didn't have context for what you were seeing.
I did not even know that movie was related to Alien until after I watched it and people told me.
So it's like after everybody, like they really do take their time having these characters just like talk to each other. They talk about their wages. It's obvious they're coworkers. They're not friends.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone really likes each other.
No, they all seem short with each other a lot of the time. They don't really like each other that much.
This is like my hell situation. Like imagine you get on a ship for like an undisclosed amount of time with a bunch of coworkers that you don't like. Oh my god, I can't even go to like a happy hour with a bunch of coworkers I don't like. Like I can't imagine.
You can leave at any time. You can just walk out of the building and go home. Here you're stuck on you're stuck in a ship with them. You can't go anywhere.
And also like they have to like trust each other with their lives and shit because like who the fuck knows what's gonna happen. And as we see, most of them shouldn't be trusted with each other's lives. Like they're terrible at their job.
There's only one person that knows what they should be doing and nobody wants to listen to her.
Right.
Because she doesn't have the power to override anyone. But yeah,
I saw a really interesting take on why nobody listens to her. And it was basically sort of based in this idea that like all of the men are trying to move towards like progress and science and facts, and they're on for the adventure of like finding like new discoveries.
They're wanting to take the risks to discover something new. They're
whereas like the women are far more risk adverse and more nurturing, which from the perspective of the film is obviously the correct choice. Like that's the thing that's actually going to save their lives and actually move them forward. But like none of the men will fucking listen. Like the entire fucking movie, none of the men listen.
Oh yeah.
And then they all fucking die. And like good.
Deserved.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
I mean, we're in the plot already. Who cares? But anyways, like they sort of split up. Some people are staying on the ship, and then they send down like 3 other people to go check out where the transmission's coming from. And so they land. They get in their little space suits, and then they like trek out into this like really fucked up planet, which is like it's horribly like inhospitable. There's like a constant storm happening. It's dark. And as they like get closer and closer to where the signal's coming from, they discover that it's like some weirdo looking like spaceship is just like sitting there. And it's huge. It's like not to human scale. It's like too big for them. It's like a Titan ship. So
and this is already where, when we're getting into like the sexual stuff, this is already where people start to make a lot of the sort of like identifications of like what's going on allegorically speaking. Like this people in the spermy looking white spaceship, like spacesuits, like entering the fallopian tube looking spaceship, and then they find the eggs like in the womb or whatever.
Well, like this is where we get the stark contrast between the different like architectural styles of these two crafts. So we come from the human craft, which is a very corporate vessel. It's very industrial. It's very like rectangular. It's very rectangular and like grayish white. It's all like analog computers, and things are pretty like overall pretty gray and white on the inside, and like almost clinical in a lot of areas. It looks like it's human. It's industrial. And then when we get to this alien ship, it's very clear from just the get-go. It's a weird horseshoe shaped like black thing. Like it has all sorts of like weird organic like designs all over it. So it's clear that it's not a human ship. And they enter it through these weird, I mean, say what it is. It's like vaginal-esque entrances at the middle of the ship, between like in the middle of the horseshoe. And once again, like they're going down like the hallways of this ship, the corridors, and it's very clearly not meant for a human to traverse. It's
pussy ship.
Yeah,
there's a lot of like womb stuff happening with because also like their ship is literally called Mother. Like there's lots of womb things.
Very woomy, yeah.
Very woomy. We're getting into biology. So this is where which like we'll get into it more once we get through the full like life cycle of the alien, but I get so fucking confused about how the fuck their birthing system works. But this is where they first find the egg sacs, right?
Before we find the egg sacs, that's when they enter the like the bridge, the like the pilot seat. You see this weird exoskeletal creature suit. It's like it's hard to tell what you're looking at, but it's like this massive being that's like sitting in a reclined chair. It almost looks like a gas mask attached to their face. And, like they're fused to the chair with some sort of like telescope looking thing in front of them. And
so once again, this is where I get confused because they don't seem very like alarmed or startled by this. But so to me, as somebody who's never seen this before, I'm assuming these people encounter aliens all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because this is clearly a giant fucking alien. That doesn't seem to be the
case here, but yeah, they don't do a good job being really like, whoa, what's going on?
Right. Like, it's like, for me, as a person who's never met a fucking extraterrestrial being, I would have been like, what the fuck is that? Like, this is terrifying. Let's leave. But they're just casually walking around it like it's totally normal and it's fine.
It's a bunch of men, so...
Well, can't be trusted.
Yeah. So they also see that there's like a gaping hole in the chest of the creature, which becomes...
Love a gaping hole.
Important later. But that's when they also see the hole in the floor that they want to investigate because they look down it and they can see that huge room. Yeah. Cavernous. It's the room with like the blue laser light over the fog.
Right. Is that where the eggs are?
Yeah, that's where they lower the guy down because they're like, that sounds like a great idea. Get in there.
Yeah. And so this was kind of lost on me. And I think this is part of the downside of me watching this now in 2024 for the first time ever, is that despite the fact that I've never seen this movie, I know a lot about this movie. I know the xenomorph is what it looks like. I know about the face hugger. I know about Ellen Ripley being the main character. And what I didn't realize is that to people of this time period watching it for the first time, the guy who's getting lowered down to the egg section, they think he's the main character. That was like one of the big gags of this movie, apparently, is that like because women weren't allowed to be main characters, there was never like a thought in anyone's mind that Ellen Ripley was like important. Like
that was the first guy that woke up in cryo, right?
yeah, he's like this, like he's like the fake out main character.
Because like they don't really focus on any in particular character through the beginning. They just show a bunch of scenes of people doing stuff, waking up, getting their coffee, complaining about their wages to each other. Like there's not like a hard focus yet on like who is the main character. And so you might assume like the guy that's going into the spaceship that's being lowered into this special room like is obviously important.
Yeah, I think he also had some other important scenes about like because there were decisions to be made about what they were going to do here, and I think he was kind of the one leading the conversation if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens previously. I wasn't paying that much attention because in my mind watching this I was like, well, obviously Ellen Ripley is the main character. I don't care about all these
his name
other
was Kane, right?
random...
Yeah, Kane.
Yeah, Kane, yeah.
Kane.
Yeah, but apparently that's important, like culturally speaking, because this movie
like,
was
at the time,
originally
would just assume that
1979.
Yeah,
and Ellen Ripley in a lot of ways became like the blueprint for the female hero character for later movies.
The female like action hero protagonist,
right? Which I had no idea. I just assumed like she's just the main character. I didn't realize like she's like the first.
Role. This was like. Just put her on the map. So yeah.
So he. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Kane gets lowered into the egg chamber, and he starts investigating these weird pods on the ground, and start poking and prodding it as you would, obviously, especially since there's movement inside. And it like opens up like a weird flower on top. It's all meaty on the inside.
Love a meaty flower.
It's all meaty and like organy on the inside, and then and then he fucking gets got.
Yeah,
like the first real scare of the movie is this creature launching at the screen and getting into his helmet and latching onto his face.
Penetrating the face. And this is the first time we see like a very graphic like metaphor for sexual assault in the first of many. I feel like it's like I looking back, like when I was reading people talk about this movie, I was like, oh, this happens like a lot. Like I didn't even consider like how often they depict like some sort of metaphor for sexual assault like throughout the entire movie. It's constant. But this is the first like really like shocking one, I guess. But also, it's like, I guess that's the other thing is like, maybe I thought this was boring because like, even though I've never seen it, I knew it was going to happen. So like, am I shocked?
Yeah.
No. Like to me, this wasn't shocking. I was like, yeah, this is obviously going to happen because it's the face hugger. That's what it does.
Yeah. It's like at the time people didn't know, I had no idea what a face hugger could be. So.
Right.
It wasn't part of the pop culture yet.
Who are the other men that are with him? I don't remember what other characters were with him on this.
It was Dallas, who's the captain, Kane, and who else was there? Lambert was there.
I don't remember who that is, but
Lambert was the woman who had the short hair, the short fried hair.
Oh right, she does go.
Oh God, yeah, she's there with them.
Wait, isn't that that's the lady from The Birds, right?
Yeah, she was in The Birds.
She's kind of like a horror icon at this point.
Yeah, she's had experience in the field before. So those are the three that are there. And so they carry Kane back because he's unconscious and this thing is wrapped around his, attached to his face and wrapped around his neck. And Ripley, who since Captain Dallas is off the ship, Ripley is technically in charge on the ship. And
Right.
she's citing all of the correct procedure for like quarantine and not letting them on because, I mean, obviously she's following policy, and why would you ever want that thing on board?
Right. Yeah. I do wonder, do you think there was some, like, what do you think was the reasoning? Because they have two female characters, and one of them is a virtual nobody. The other
Yeah.
one is very famous for being in the horror movie The Birds. Why do you think they cast them
And
the way
also
that they,
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah, also Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You would think they would have cast her as the do you think it was just kind of to make it even more shocking that Ellen Ripley was the final girl, or
Maybe.
it's an interesting choice?
That would be possible, I think.
Because I didn't even consider, like, Sigourney Weaver is like a nobody at this, right? This is like her first big role.
Yeah, this is her breakout role.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah. It really paid off for her in the long run. It really launched her career.
Well, yes.
But yeah, like since she's the acting senior officer on board, she's like, no, you're not bringing that shit on here. I'm not letting you. She's trying to exercise the, power that she rightfully should have in the situation.
Right.
And once again, a man oversteps and like defies her. Ash, the acting like science officer, overrides her lockdown and just lets them in the ship.
Which is ironic because the whole reason that they go there in the first place is because they're following the rules.
Yeah.
So it's like they literally only go there because they essentially have to, or else they won't get paid. But then the second that fucking Ellen Ripley goes, hey, we can't do that, that's breaking the rules, they're like, never mind, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. We're breaking the rules.
Who needs rules?
Yeah, so they bring Kane on board and they take him to the medical bay. And we get a much better look at the facehugger, which is a creepy, flesh-colored spider thing that has like finger arms that are like latched around his face. And they definitely point out the fact that the creature has like put a tube down his throat, and it's making him breathe. They put an emphasis on that. And also the tail is wrapped around his neck, and as they try to remove it, it tightens around his neck, basically being like, if you try to remove me, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, I found this I love this description of the facehugger. The facehugger is a combination of three things: a hand, a set of testicles, and a vagina. And we could throw in the facehugger's tail as a phallic object, but honestly, the tail is one of the least phallic objects in this veritable parade of dicks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very... We get a better look at the underside of it, the side that's on his face later, and it's very genitally.
This movie is really a parade of dicks. Like,
oh yeah,
dicks
100%
everywhere. Anything, even things that aren't phallic, like a fucking newspaper being rolled up into a phallic object to be used as a dick. Like, everybody's making dicks out of everything.
Oh yeah, this is also where they make the discovery where they try to cut it off and its blood is acid.
Right.
And so they know if they try to like stab this creature, they're just going to splash acid everywhere, hurting themselves and also just melting through their ship. So they can't just be reckless about physical attacks on this thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Live a little. Cut into it. I would have.
But like they all leave him in the medical bay because he's still in like a coma, and they're going to like they're all like debating about like Ripley's pissed that nobody's listening to her even when she does have authority. She gets like overstepped. She's like trying to monitor what's happening to Kane, and Ash is like explaining some of it to her.
This was also around the time where it really stood out to me that this movie severely lacks like underscoring, like
Yeah.
tense music. A lot of this film is just dead silence and then like an occasional jump scare, which I like. I don't know if it was just like that's how movies were back then, but so many of the scenes feel so flat, even if something like important's happening, because there's such a severe lack of underscoring throughout this entire film.
Mm-hmm.
And I fucking hated it. Like,
I will
that's
say
one of the things that bothered me the
some
most.
of the miking for their dialogue can be really rough and hard to listen to, but I do like. I'm a big fan in a lot of movies where like less is more when it comes to a musical score. Sometimes a movie needs a big, dramatic, adventurous score. Other times I like hearing the environment because it's more immersive for me. If it's like, it feels like I'm on the ship because I can hear the creaks, I can hear the machines whirring, and I'm not listening to like music playing constantly.
I want music.
I know you're a
As a
musical
person who
theater
hates
gay.
music, I do like musical. Maybe that's what it is.
You
I
wanted
like
this to be a musical.
Ugh. Why isn't? Is there no Alien musical?
All I know of is there was that high school production that did a musical, but it wasn't like official.
Yeah, I don't see any really. No, there's nothing official. Damn. See, maybe I'd like it more.
I bet
Okay,
you would.
maybe when they finally make Alien the musical, I'll actually like this. Um, yeah, so we're at the face hugger part, and I feel like this is the first part where they really start to dive into the idea of like impregnating somebody.
Well, we haven't
And like
gotten, we haven't
obviously
gotten to the impregnation part yet, though.
we haven't they don't know that's what's happening
Yeah.
yet, but we're quite literally seeing a man get like penetrated through the mouth forcefully by an alien
Forcefully impregnated
being.
against his will.
Yeah,
By a
and
weird
it's
genital
obvious
monster.
that that's happening. Whether they know it's sexual or not yet is kind of like whatever. It's still like we're watching a character get like essentially like face assaulted sexually.
Yeah.
Which is pretty gross, I would say.
I mean, it's the idea of the face hugger is terrifying just by itself.
Yeah.
It is horrifying. Which they're very confused because when they're checking in on Kane, they can't find the face hugger. It's not on him anymore. He's just laying there. And then they're searching around for it and they find it and it's dead. Which is confusing because it's like they thought it was more like a parasitical being, like it's using the host to like jump onto and live, but it's dead now for some reason. But Kane wakes up and
which
seems to be fine.
I don't understand that, right? Because it's like okay, so
well, there are lots of creatures that once they mate, they die.
But like it like crawled to the ceiling and then it like fell off. So it died. It like crawled away and died.
I assume so.
That just seems so.
They needed a scene. They needed a gag.
I know. I think they were just doing it for another jump scare.
Probably.
But there also is this moment that I saw so when I was doing my research about this film, somebody point to that's really important thematically here, where Ripley is the person looking for the face hugger, and she is the one that it like falls dead from the ceiling and lands on her, and one of the men comes up and like tries to like shield her after it has already fallen on her. So like if it was still alive and attacking, she would be dead right now. Like it wouldn't have. So it's sort of like this moment of like once again re-emphasizing that the men are useless and cannot save her. Which is sort of a theme throughout the entire movie.
But yeah, they return to space, and now that Kane is up and seemingly fine, he doesn't remember what happened to him, except for the feeling of being smothered. But he doesn't really remember what happened, but he seems to be okay. And so the crew is preparing to just be like, okay, great, we did it. we're gonna go back into cryo. Let's have some food first. And right in the middle of their meal, Kane suddenly starts like convulsing and choking. And what happens?
Gagging. She's gagging.
Yeah. He's a mother.
Yeah, he births.
Yeah.
He gives birth.
A very violent, bloody birth occurs right there on the table.
To a very phallic looking alien baby.
Oh, yeah. Pops out of his chest and goes, Meh! And scurries off.
Right. And so this is where I get confused about the life cycle of these aliens.
Yeah.
So there's the face hugger thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, there's an egg
mm-hmm.
that births a face hugger thing.
Mm-hmm.
The face hugger thing impregnates a vessel of some other species.
Yeah, host.
Then the gestation of the egg happens in the other host species very quickly, within like, it seemed like, I don't know, 24 hours tops.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not even that long. And then births the xenomorph.
Yeah.
And then what?
Well,
how did we get back to the face hugger? Where did that come from?
You will get these questions answered in Aliens.
I want it answered now.
Okay, well, there is a queen xenomorph that lays the eggs. Okay. So it's more like it's like how like bees are and stuff, where it's like there's, or like ants, where it's like you have the queen that lays the eggs and the drones take care of those and create new ones. The idea of the facehugger is kind of just like,
who impregnates the queen?
The drones? I don't exactly remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Aliens, if that's like directly covered.
Are the drones the xenomorph?
Yeah. They're kind of like the drones for the hive.
How does it become the queen?
I don't remember or know off the top of my head.
Best girl.
Yeah, she's big. She's got a fabulous crown.
Okay.
All
right.
From what I remember, it's been a lot. Like, I've always watched Alien the most because it's the most directly suspenseful horror flick. Aliens becomes more of an action movie.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's where we get like Space Marines and stuff like that happening, more guns and stuff like that happening.
It's like, as if I could care less about
it. It starts
this.
getting more and more actiony as you go. But people, I think people tend to think Aliens is the best one in the franchise, but personally, I like Alien.
I've heard this.
Smaller and more condensed.
A lot of people say that Aliens is like the most favorable of the Alien films.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So he gives birth to the xenomorph.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little guy.
Yeah.
And then he has expired.
Yeah, they shoot him out into space.
Right. And this is, I feel like this is really where it becomes clear what this movie is about. Because it's like, this is the first time you really start to realize, like, oh, this is about it's almost like a reverse birthing, where it's like the man character is getting forcefully impregnated and then dying in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And then the women are the ones that have to like try to save everybody and help everybody and move the plot along, because all the men are just getting got
left and right.
Yeah. Which I saw a really interesting take on what this was all about contextually in the 1970s, which it sort of focuses on two main cultural fears at the time. The fear of the civil rights movement and affirmative action, which was sort of this fear that white people had of another like race becoming superior, which is, I mean, obviously apparent throughout the entire film because there's this sort of like superior, like they call it the perfect
Yeah,
like
they call it
race
the
multiple
perfect
times.
organism.
Yeah, perfect species or whatever the fuck. So like that is obviously really common. And then also this theme of like technology um basically making men useless. And I guess it has to do with the fact that this was around the time when like IVF was kind of created and that was becoming more
Oh.
popular. So a lot of the impregnation stuff and uh the men sort of getting impregnated has a lot to do with that, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Because that was a big fear at the time that like technology was going to essentially make men useless in a reproductive standpoint.
I see.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I
Which,
could see that.
yeah, it does make sense too, because it's like realistically, I mean, men aren't really that important in reproduction. Like when everything
No.
comes down to it, it's like they're no more important in reproduction than just the sperm.
Yeah,
And then
they don't do
that's
anything else
it.
beyond that point, really.
Yeah, which like at the time, I guess men were really starting to realize that for the first time. Like, oh
Hmm.
shit, if they can just take our jizz and use it themselves, then what the fuck are we here for? Um, Unfortunately, what's it like 50 years later, we're still in an extremely male dominated society. So we haven't gotten rid of them yet, but any day now. Okay, so the little dude pops out of the chest.
Hmm. So
And then
now
to
they
me,
can't go to sleep because now they have to hunt down this little creature.
right. To me, at this point, from this point forward, this movie becomes a blur of me just waiting for everybody to die so I can
Yeah.
stop watching
We
it.
fully entered the creature feature now.
Yes, it's the last major plot point has really happened at this point
Hmm.
until everybody dies their own little ways and the cat's there.
Jonesy.
Jonesy, which we haven't talked about Jonesy at all, but Jonesy is important because
Yeah. The main character.
Jonesy quite literally gets multiple people killed. And I kind of love that about Jonesy.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes him really
Yeah,
fun.
I support
Also,
Jones.
there's a lot of conspiracy theories about Jonesy, which like I like truly can't even begin to fathom like half of them.
Hmm.
But I think that the most important thing I took away from people's thoughts on Jonesy was sort of like the idea that the cat represents like being a loner, but also being resilient because of the whole like 9 lives thing. And in an essence is sort of like a like uh I guess like a thematic animal version of like Ellen Ripley, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I guess I could see that. Because, like, having a random animal companion in this movie is quite, like, okay, there's a cat on board, sure.
Yeah. But the cat does drive the plot multiple times because how many
Yeah.
times does somebody go looking for Jonesy and then somebody else gets killed? Or like it happens like 3 or 4 times throughout especially the later parts of the movie.
Though
And
I just do like that as, like, a plot point, though, that Ripley really does care about this cat. Like, Ripley
oh
is
yeah.
not about to abandon Jonesy in space in this ship.
Well, it also ties back to her sort of like motherly, nurturing like of qualities because like with everybody in the ship constantly ignoring or actively fighting against her being nurturing, um the cat's like the one character that allows her to like protect it.
Yeah. Jonesy, it seems like Ripley's the only one that Jonesy likes, too.
Oh, I did forget. There is one actually important uh plot point, and that's with Ash, right? The doctor.
Yeah.
Because is he the next to die?
No, we're still a little ways away from Ash's reveal.
Oh. What happens next?
Because right now we are looking for the alien, and they're
Uh,
introducing the motion detectors, and
right. The ones that just wave around.
yeah, they're splitting. They're kind of splitting up, and Dallas. This is where Captain Dallas goes into the air ducts with the flamethrower.
They have this insanely high-tech motion detector that can somehow detect motion while you're moving it
Don't think
around.
about it too much. They don't want you to
But they
think about it too
also
much.
they have that device paired with just a very long net that they're going to use to, I guess, catch it with a net.
Yeah, because like
That's
they
the
just saw
plan.
this little thing.
Like they just watched this thing bust out of somebody's chest and kill him instantly, but they're just gonna catch it with like a shitty little fishing net. Why did they even have that on board? Like, what was that for?
I don't. That's a good question. Maybe there could be rats on board. Maybe that's why they have Jonesy. Stow away rats in space. You don't want that.
Rats in space? How would they get on?
At the start, it could be in like the cargo. I don't know. They could pick them up in space. I don't know. They could be space rats. But
Okay, well,
oh wait, no. Before he goes into the ducks, that's when what's his face? Sorry, I have to look up his character name. Brett. Brett's following Jonesy into the. I also looked this up. It's I thought it was some sort of vehicle bay, but no, it's a dock for the landing gear. He's in that room, that weird brownish wet room. That's for the landing gear. That's what that is. And that's where you first encounter the fully grown alien, and it like kills him.
right.
And then that's when they go with Dallas's plan to flush out the alien, because they plan on just like shooting it out the airlock.
Right.
And so that's when Dallas goes into the ducks with the flamethrower.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like, why do they have a flamethrower?
And I will say, for me, this was I thought this scene was nice and tense, where he's like crawling around in this very confined space with this like heavy, clunky machinery, including like a flamethrower, and then and like he's like trying to navigate the space, and then we get like our first, like one of the first really good like peekaboo moments with the alien. He literally just kind of from out in the darkness kind of goes like at the camera when he kills Dallas.
Remember this at all?
Okay, great. But he does that, and
okay, I believe you.
this is when we can really talk about the aliens' design. Like,
Yeah,
I think one of the most successful things about this movie is, once again, H.R. Giger designed this monster, and it's so sexual and phallic. Its head is literally a giant dick.
yeah.
It has no eyes, no discernible eyes. It's like a smooth, helmeted, sleek
Dick creature.
dick creature with like a proboscis mouth, like two mouths.
Dick mouth.
Yeah, dick mouth.
It's
And-
like his mouth is almost like one of those like little dog penises that just like shoots
Yeah.
out. Little crayon.
And then dick tail.
Right.
They use this to
It's just
penetrate
a
people.
bunch of dicks.
And it's so, once again, I've never, in all the like alien creature feature movies that I've seen, I have never seen a design like this ever. And it's so effective. It makes it stand out so much from so many other movies of the time. Because this
it is
design
iconic.
has literally, like, it has stood the test of time. I still think that the alien design, even in this movie, the way it looks in the movie, looks fantastic.
I mean, I agree. I will say of the like the things about this movie that I had no issue with were the practical effects I thought were really fun.
Mhm.
They weren't always like super believable naturalistically speaking, but I just thought it was nice. I mean, obviously it's the 70s, so they didn't really have a lot of options, but it's nice to see a movie that is just a ton of practical effects.
Oh yeah.
And then also the acting was great. At no point did I ever feel like, wow, this feels like shitty low budget acting. Like
Yeah.
the acting, like the
At no
actors were
point,
like
at no
the
point
fucking
was it
giving their all.
tarot.
No, Jesus. No, it was like they really came to work. Like you could
Oh
tell the
yeah.
actors were like putting in the work.
That
Which
was
also makes sense because I feel like with that level of practical effects, like I don't know how many chances they really got. You know what I mean? It's like you
you
only have
don't
so many shots to get the shot.
like the chest burster scene. They shot it twice, and only because the first time that they did it, it didn't fully burst out of the chest like it was supposed to. It got stuck, and so they had to reset
Oh.
it and do it again, which is why there's like at the beginning, like during the chest burst scene, it's like it starts out like it's resisting against the chest so much because that's from the first take, and then it bursts out in the second take. But yeah, I agree. Like the acting is really solid. The effects look great. The sets look amazing. Like it's
I didn't like
super
the set,
detailed.
but I think that's more like a preference thing.
Yeah, I
Like
think
like
for
I
you, it's
don't
more
I don't think it
personal
was
taste.
yeah, I don't think the set was like poorly designed. I just like aesthetically thought it was ugly.
Yeah, well, like it's supposed to kind of be because it's like a corporate, like industrial vessel. It's not supposed to be like a sleek, like you know, space odyssey style craft. It's not supposed to be like sleek and nice and luxurious. It's supposed to be a working vessel. So even for the time, they were using monitors and stuff that were like more older and like beat up looking.
Yeah. Which I mean fair. Okay, who dies next?
Okay, so Dallas dies in the airlock, and they go and investigate, and they only find the flamethrower, and that's when
I'd have to say, just a side note, the flamethrower stressed me out. Like the idea of having that on a movie set, I was like, this is insane. This
giant
is
open
just
flame. Yeah,
it's just a loose fire.
yeah.
Like the fact that they were
On
just
an
carrying that around
enclosed
on a
set
fucking
that's like it has a ceiling, it has walls right next to you.
Yeah.
It's not an open stage. It's a tube that you're in.
like insane. And some of the scenes, it was so close to their face. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
holy shit. Anyway, continue.
That's when now Lambert's like they suggest that they take the escape shuttle, but like they can't because the escape shuttle can't house that many people.
Right,
So they
which they're
have
only
to deal
one
with the
person
alien in
over, so
some
it's
way.
like just leave a girl to die because
Vote
like
someone off the island.
literally because you're all gonna die anyway if you don't go. So also, what kind of fucking Titanic ass ship where
That's the
the
thing.
space
Is like,
shuttle only holds 4 people?
They don't
when
have
there's,
like
like,
life
10 people in the
preservation
ship?
systems for like the full crew. That's insane.
Yeah. The crew's not that big. It's like I think it's
No.
like 8 or 10
It's like
people.
a skeleton crew. Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't have had like one more fucking life preserver ship. Insane. Then again, this is corporate America, so
Oh yeah. And speaking of
what do I
corporate,
expect?
corporate Earth at this point,
Oh, true.
this is where we get
Earth
the next
Corporation.
big gag, which Ripley, we forgot to talk about Mother earlier. Mother's like the ship's AI system. This like
Yeah.
room of blinking lights. Ripley goes to consult Mother about what's happening and like how to deal with the alien, and Ripley manages to uncover from Mother that the company that they work for, Weyland-Yutani, sent them to that planet. They knew about that planet. They sent them to that planet to retrieve the alien life form, and that they were also considered the crew expendable. And this is like a huge blow to Ripley. Obviously, if you found out, like if you were working as like an Uber driver, and you found out that your company said that you were expendable on this driving mission. You were fully
I
expendable.
mean, I think every Uber driver knows that Uber considers them
Mhm.
expendable. Like, I think that's the difference between like those characters and like a modern day corporate employee is like, I've
Well,
worked
yeah,
at
this was still
corporations.
when we were
We
imagining
know.
the horrors of corporations
Yeah, like
before they
I'm
became
very
reality.
aware. My corporate job I used to have, they would have literally
Hmm.
killed me if that was legal. Like they would have taken me to the edge of my life as far as they could go without getting sued. And then they'd still probably go a little farther because they used to get
Just to
sued
see what
all
they
the
can get away
time.
with. Yeah.
Literally, because they'd be like, "Oh, you want to sue us? Go for it. We've got tons of lawyers and tons of money." Like that's literally how corporations work. So yeah, I'm not shocked. Oh,
Yeah.
you're expendable? Like, yeah, of course. You're like probably like minimum wage ass employees doing a dangerous job. Like, what
Some
do you
blue collar
expect? They don't care
workers,
if you die.
literally.
Yeah.
And so she goes to confront Ash because Ash was listed as the person that's supposed to like return the alien for study. Um, and Ash tries to literally murder her, beats her up,
Mhm.
and then tries to kill her in a very interesting way, which
Yeah.
is a rolled up like magazine
Roll Up
that
Magazine
she's
jammed down her
shoving
throat.
into her throat to try to asphyxiate her. There's so many ways you could kill a person.
Yeah. So I saw somebody talk about why this was what's happening, and sort of their sort of analysis of Ash as a character is that Ash is a he's a robot.
Oh wow,
Um,
spoilers.
so yeah, spoiler alert, he's a robot. Um, so he's not really a man, but he's shaped like a man, and in all ways, like his existence, like his personality is like very man-like, but
Yeah.
he'll never be a real man because he's not human.
Hmm.
So and he's also a biologist, so he sort of obsesses over the human experience with a specific emphasis on breeding because that's what this entire thing is about. So
Hmm.
like his sort of like trying to kill her with the newspaper jamming it down her throat is him sort of emulating the face hugger being
Yeah.
in his mind this like perfect sexual creature, which he can never be because he's a robot, so he's not sexual in any way. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
spoiler alert, he's a robot.
he's trying to asphyxiate her by shoving rolled up magazine down her throat, and Parker comes in and helps fend him off of Ripley because it's shown that he's very strong, like he's inhumanly strong. And
Mhm.
when they knock his head off, and it's
Like
been
you
shown several
do.
times before that he like sweats, it leaks this like milky fluid, and it's like what's going on here.
Yeah.
Even you kept commentating on it. I was like, just you wait.
He
um
just jizzes out of his face sometimes.
yeah, like when they knock his head off, he's suddenly like spurting milk out everywhere, and so it's
It's
revealed.
milk is a strong word. It is quite literally jizz, semen, spewing.
Yeah.
Like I like what I understand thematically why this is happening, but like what fucking sick freak designed these robots to be powered by
Well, that's
jizz?
one of
Like
my favorite things about them, though, is because it's so easy to make like an android robot style creature and just make it gears and pulleys and wires. It's like that's expected. You knock its head off and has wires that spark, but instead it's this weird amalgamation of like it's like biomechanical in a way. Like he's so close to being an actual living creature because his insides are these weird kind of meaty parts, and it's all washed
yeah,
in this
meaty
like
balls.
white milky
It's full of
semen
these little like
fluid that makes
these little like
everything work.
sacks.
Yeah. And so it's
Tons
like
of ball sacks.
it's really it's a really fascinating like android
Yeah.
design.
I I do think there's something kind of poetic about him being full of jizz.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I will say this does give us one of my all-time favorite moments of the entire. It's maybe my favorite moment of the entire film when they need to talk to him shortly after.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like the next scene, right?
Yeah, it's
And they
immediately
like
afterwards.
they plug his head back in and boot his head back
Yeah, they
up.
literally just prop his head up, plug it back into the body that's all like twitching now, and they have a conversation with a severed head.
Yeah, but in that moment when they plug his head back in, the first thing that happens is his severed head just fucking like vomits a bunch of jizz, like literally like oozes out of his mouth. He's also covered in the fucking.
He's caked in it. He's glazed. He's a fully glazed donut right now.
Like literally a glazed donut. Yeah, I'm there. If you have any doubts that this movie is about sexual assault and reproduction, it's like there is nothing fucking like that. Like bukkake scene, I was like, this is quite literally like out of like I have read erotic fiction that is like this. Like this is insane.
It's also just thematic that like that fluid is literally his life force. It's his blood.
Yeah,
it's what powers his entire body. But yeah, they have a conversation with a severed head, which is fully given up the ruse of pretending to be an android working for Weyland-Yutani, and he expresses his admiration for the xenomorph, calling it a perfect organism, and he just kind of like taunts him a little bit, being like, "You're not going to survive. It's going to kill you all." But now that they have enough people, now they want to get to that life. It's not a life raft, but you know, it's like the life ship, whatever, the escape pod.
Yeah, because now the only people left are Ripley,
Lambert, Parker, Jonesy.
Wait, that's only 4 people.
Jonesy's a cat.
Well, I'm thinking when the robot was alive, that was only 4 people. So wait, why didn't they just go to the life ship earlier?
Because before it was Ash, Ripley, Lambert, Parker. It couldn't hold 4 people.
Oh, it can only hold 3 people.
Yeah, 4 people was too many.
What a horrible number. Okay, anyway. So, great. So now they're going to the lifeboat.
They're just going to abandon a ship. They're going to blow it up. They start the self-destruct sequence to scuttle the ship. And they're all rushing to get to the pod and get all their stuff together. Ripley's
just like us rushing to get to the pod.
But Parker and Lambert are trying to get they're gathering supplies somewhere in like a storage area together.
Right.
And they just kind of get killed. I think one of them gets like,
well, I think they were all gathering supplies or something, but then Ripley goes to get Jonesy.
Yeah, Ripley goes to get Jonesy. That's how they get separated. That's why they're separated.
And she takes the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Which is essentially why the other 2 die. I mean, in theory, if they had the flamethrower, they might have actually been able to fight it off. We don't really see how it responds to fire, because at no point do they have the flamethrower when they need it.
I don't think that they had the budget or anything to actually do a fire stunt, so they never actually like shoot the alien with the flamethrower.
Yeah, it doesn't even, every time that the alien's there, they just conveniently forgot the flamethrower. So I didn't even know why it was involved in the story to begin with.
But yeah, they both
other than to make the set
killed.
Way more dangerous.
And I know for sure, I think one of them gets speared by the tail, which is like more imagery.
I thought, doesn't one of them get got by the mouth?
Yeah, one of them gets got by the mouth and like the face.
Yeah, I think he gets got by the mouth and then she gets got by the tail. I'm pretty sure.
Fully penetrated
and
by that
she
tail.
Actually gets an off-screen death, which a lot of people have read into being significant because she's the only woman we watch die, and we don't actually see her die. She happens off screen, whereas every other man, I'm pretty sure, dies on screen.
Yeah,
more or less. Like I can't remember.
Their death scene is there. We're not seeing them get like eviscerated usually, but
yeah, we just see the tail kind of like climb up her leg, and then it's like
it was very suggestive with that imagery.
Yeah. And then they're dead, and then
Ripley's got Jonesy going to the
yeah.
pod, and she's just slinging him around in that
Oh my God, yeah, the
carrier.
scene. She puts Jonesy in the fucking cat carrier and she throws that thing around like it's just a fucking like
She's
empty
just
backpack.
swinging it around. She's knocking it on things. It's getting flipped all around.
Like throwing it upside down,
Poor
flipping it around.
Jonesy.
It reminds me of, okay, there's this scene in A Quiet Place. In a, hello, can I help you, Marilyn? There's this scene in A Quiet Place where, so A Quiet Place, by the way, clearly took inspiration from Alien, the Quiet Place Day One, because it's literally alien invasion. There's a cat character, and the cat character is like heavily involved and gets a lot of people killed. Actually, maybe that's not true, but the cat character does a lot of stuff. And there's a scene in that movie where like they have to do a lot of like crazy stunts. So Lupita Nyong'o's character just stuffs the cat in a bag, and then like they do all these crazy things. Like they're like swimming underwater for like 20 minutes in this like sewer system and like running from the aliens. And it's just like, and then in the end, like the cat's fine. Like it just was in the bag, I guess, the whole time. It reminded me of that. I was like, I almost feel like that was an homage to this now that I've seen Alien.
Yeah.
Like maybe that was done intentionally as a joke because of the way she treats fucking Jonesy in this cat carrier.
She's like panicking. She's trying to get out. The place is going to self-destruct, but still, she's just flinging Jonesy around.
Well, there's certain moments where like she's flinging him around, and then it's almost like you see like Sigourney Weaver remember like, oh, this is supposed to be a cat here,
because obviously,
so she kind of like gets it together.
This actual carrier right now, it's an empty container that she's pretending that there's a cat in, and so she's not. Because there's not.
It feels like she
there.
forgets sometimes.
Yeah, it's like she's just carrying it. And she's supposed
there.
to be acting, and so she's just like whatever. But then like occasionally she remembers like, oh yeah, my beloved cat is supposed to be in here, and so she's like a little more ginger with it here and there. But like she fully like so kicks it funny. Over and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she tries to get to the escape pod, and the alien's blocking her path. Oh no! And so she rushes to try to stop the self-destruction sequence. Because, you know, it's on a 10-minute timer and it has to be stopped before 5 minutes is up. When you can last cancel it. She runs all the way back up to the front of the ship. Too late. So now she has to sneak her way. Huh?
I literally don't remember any of those.
Yeah. Well, it's just something thrown in for like tension. But she like goes all the way back to where they like set up the self-destruction thing and tries to cancel it, but then it goes like too late. And so she's like sneaks past the alien to get onto the actual like escape pod.
Mm-hmm.
And then once she finally thinks it's safe, she gets away. The ship explodes behind her like 5 times in a row, just to make sure you know it's blown up. Because I did always find that funny. It explodes, and you're like, oh, that was pretty. And then it explodes again, and you're like, oh, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then it explodes again. It explodes like multiple times. And
one of the analyses I read about this, people did also express this as sort of like Ripley being birthed. Like in these last moments, it's like Ripley is the newborn fetus that's going to be birthed from Mother in the escape pod.
Mother. Yeah.
Which I was like, that's a interesting yet confusing take. Because was she baby all along?
Was she baby the whole time?
Like, I don't know. I feel like that has a lot of other implications that I don't have the brain capacity to unpack.
Feels more like a stretch, but I could see what people are talking about.
Yeah,
you could definitely make the argument.
So it was sort of based on this reading that like Ripley is like afraid to be birthed. It sounds insane when you say it out loud. I don't remember the specifics, but it's sort of like
you only have to go through it once.
Yeah, well, like she's constantly like trying to like avoid being birthed or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. It was a very strange reading, but I was like, I do kind of get the sort of birthing because mother,
Yeah,
and then the
mother.
escape pod and everything. But then it's like, then what the hell? Where does the fucking xenomorph fit in there? Like, what is it like? Fucking is the xenomorph like and like fucking I don't know, like spermicide? Like, is she a sperm? Like, what is happening in this metaphor?
Is the xenomorph the liberal left wing doctor trying to abort Ellen Ripley? Interesting. I see where you're
Is
going
the
with this now.
xenomorph the doctor trying to do post-birth abortion?
Out of the abortion mobile at the Kamala Harris
Yeah, the
rally.
abortion food truck.
Well, we just dated this podcast episode.
Anyway, so they get on the escape pod, and then
She thinks it's
Ellen
over.
Ripley takes off all her clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very controversial moment I learned in my readings of this film. The moment where Ellen Ripley takes off all her clothes, a lot of people view this as being a very like anti-feminist moment. Which I think is stupid.
Well, it's like
I
they
think
all
the idea
started
of
in their underwear, and now she's getting back into her underwear for the purposes of cryo sleep.
yeah, we get to see her like I do want to just preface this by saying I do love Sigourney Weaver. I think she's great. I would never body shame anyone, but the underwear they chose for her
It's
were
not
not
flattering.
at all flattering. They did not fit her at all. They were like way too small, yet also like they were like tidy whitey granny panties, but that were like 2 sizes too small for her. So like, and I think they did that
Low
on purpose
slung,
because
too. Very low
yeah,
slung.
like they wanted her butt crack to be showing, I'm assuming, and then she's wearing like the tank top with it's like see-through and everything. But it's like it wasn't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was just the style of the time. I thought it looked crazy. I was like,
it does.
Either choose
Well, like from the front, it looks fine for the most part.
until she bends
but
over.
then she
later.
turns around, and it's like the top of the underwear is like cutting across the like the mid of her butt, and
Yeah,
it just looks
it's,
weird.
Literally a tissue stuck to her ass.
It's like it looks fine for the front, for the back, the underwear is confusing. But
Yeah.
it was the decision
So-
they made.
She gets naked, and I personally, and I mean, I don't know if anyone cares about my fucking 2 cents of feminism because I'm a man, but I just think the idea that women getting naked somehow contradicts the very feminist like elements of this movie is completely insane. I understand why people say that because they're like, oh, the male gaze and everything.
Yeah.
And obviously, like
And
they're
it
just
is
trying
a
to
trope
sexualize her.
in a lot of horror, like, women just getting naked for whatever.
I think women should be allowed to get fucking naked for their own reasons. Like, I don't understand the concept that people are like, oh, she's getting naked, so now it's like this is for men and it devalues everything. It's like that's such a short-sighted concept of like nudity, especially in a film that has been so sexually like driven,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so much about sex and reproduction. It's like not weird to me that she gets naked in the end, especially because in
It
horror,
also doesn't
especially
feel like a weird, like, voyeuristic, sexy shot either. It's like if
no. I didn't think it did at all. And also in a horror, it's very normal. It's a trope, a common trope these days, where nudity equals vulnerability, and that's a lot of times when these big like final girl moments happen. And I think that that's like fine. I think that it's part of what makes the last sequence feel so vulnerable. She's quite literally naked when she has her finally. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
she's not literally naked, but she's in her underwear when
she's
she has her
in a
final
very
encounter.
thin cotton layer between her and the xenomorph that has stowed away onto the escape pod, which
Yeah.
does show that the xenomorph does possess some form of like intelligence. It's not like it knew where she was trying to go and like
I would also
away.
say that if I didn't already know that Ellen Ripley was going to survive because I live in 2024 and this film has been spoiled so many times in so many different ways, I would say that her getting naked really heightens the suspense of like you're watching a film where a bunch of people are basically getting metaphorically sexually assaulted to death.
Yeah.
And then she's in her final showdown with the alien and she is the most nude we have seen any character, and we could quite literally witness a very graphic death scene that is very sexual. So I think that it actually makes a lot of sense that she's naked, personally.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So the alien doesn't seem to have fully registered. Like, it's not in a rush to kill her or anything. It's like nestled in like a weird shelf where it's been hiding, and it's like sort of like slowly unfurling itself in a way. And so she slowly creeps into like
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the xenomorphs, can they see? How do they identify things?
Unclear, especially at this stage. But
because like it doesn't seem like it can see anyone. But then also sometimes it just knows where they are. So it's like
other senses. It has smell. It has hearing. All the senses seem to be
maybe like some sort of like heat detection or
something. Maybe motion. Maybe it detects you more if you're moving fast or something.
Oh, like maybe because they do tend to die more when they're running around.
Yeah, most of the people that have died have been very noisy, moving quickly, or like. Yeah. Smelly, I guess. I don't know.
Smelly, yeah. I mean, I've never seen anyone shower on this ship, so.
And they were all very sweaty because the set was very hot.
Yeah, oh my god. Some of the scenes, they are just dripping sweat. It's like, holy shit.
Yutani's not paying for air conditioning.
Wild. Insane. Anyway, she gets into a spacesuit.
She like slips into like the little like closet area and like slides into a spacesuit because her plan is gonna open that airlock, diva.
Right.
So it's very tense because maybe that's another reason why she's naked is because it's easier for her to slip into a spacesuit if she's not in a weird jumpsuit. And maybe it's a practicality thing, just it's easier for her to do that scene. I don't know. But she gets into a spacesuit and she has a harpoon gun. Why do they have a harpoon gun in space? I don't really know.
Yeah, the weapons they bring. It's like, I do think if this was actually like real life and this was an American voyage, they would all have AR-15s. Like they would all have fucking automatic rifles.
Well, they might actually have guns of some sort, but they know they can't shoot the alien because the alien is full of corrosive acid blood. And if they shoot it full of holes, it's just gonna melt their ship. Because that one drop of acid blood melted through like 2 layers of their ship's hull.
Right.
So if it's splashing everywhere in larger quantities, if it's bleeding out on the floor, it's going to melt straight through their ship and they're screwed.
But what about fire? Why do you think fire is okay?
Because fire cauterizes. I don't know. It's gonna not. You're not gonna bleed from the fire, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that's the thought process behind it.
Right. So then she like launches it out, right? Or no, she harpoons it first.
Well, she before it can kill her, she opens the airlock door, and the decompression starts to eject the alien, but it hangs onto like the door frame. And then that's when she shoots the harpoon gun, and that gets it to buckle, but it's still attached. So she fires up the engines and roasts it in the thruster, and then it gets blasted into space.
Yeah, I'm assuming harpoon gun.
She also sings her little song, your favorite part of the movie, the musical part.
The Itsy Bitsy Spider.
She sings
went up
the Lucky Star song. She sings Lucky Star.
Wait, what song is she
She's
singing?
like, you are my lucky star, or whatever. It's that little lullaby sounding song. It's called Lucky Star. That's why the DVD perk is named Lucky Star.
I literally don't remember this.
Great. One part you liked and you don't remember it.
I said I liked that?
It was a song called Lucky Star. Yeah.
Did I make a note of that?
Because it was a musical part.
My last note just says, I was mostly bored.
Great. She sings Lucky Star when she, like, has the final confrontation with the alien. So yeah, then she goes and she records her final log. She's like, I am Ellen Ripley of the Nostromo. I am the last survivor. And she puts herself into stasis with Jones.
Okay.
And they go back to Earth.
Right.
So she gets to survive.
Handwriting got so bad towards the end of this movie. I literally
You were very tired. You were so exhausted. I
was also just so bored. Like, I remember, like, I really checked out, I think, after the doctor scene. Like, after the Jizzy doctor scene, I was like, this is really the peak for me. I don't think it gets any better than this. And I think I was correct, to be honest. I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Mother serve cunt?
Well, yes.
Do you think so?
Well, she's voiced. I think her voice is cunty.
I feel like I wanted more from her.
Yeah, I would like more. I would have liked more Mother.
Because I personally, I love an evil AI. I remember when I was in college and I took like.
Well, I think that's the thing is that she's not evil. She's just doing what she's told to by the company.
She's I
do one thing I do love about talking about Mother in particular. It is very interesting that like she has a chamber that's like a womb. Like you have to go into Mother to speak to Mother. And it's strangely the most, I mean, it's one of the very few areas in the ship that's warmly lit. The rest of the area is very fluorescent, cool toned. But when you go into Mother's chamber, it's a very warm, ambery, like orangey color to the lights in there. And it's soothing. It's like warm and inviting.
I feel like this movie could have used more unbirthing scenes.
Yeah, I think so.
I love an unbirthing.
Do you want to know about the originally scripted ending?
Yeah.
So originally, it was scripted that Ripley was going to escape the Nostromo in the shuttle. And the alien was supposed to die on board. And Ridley Scott, the director, thought that was really simplistic and boring. And so he negotiated with the studio to do more filming. And that's how we got the final act of the movie. And also, it was envisioned that when Ripley tries to flush the alien out of the airlock, the creature, the xenomorph climbs back into the pod. Ripley tries to fight it off, but it like doesn't work, and it literally rips her head off, and she dies. And then the alien would go and sit in her chair, and it mimics Captain Dallas's voice into the microphone to put out that final transmission, saying like, "I'm signing off. Hopefully the network will pick me up." But the studio didn't like that. The studio execs were like, "No."
I wonder why.
Oh, it literally says right here. According to Ridley Scott, while pitching this idea over the phone, there was a long and uncomfortable silence. Within 14 hours, a studio executive arrived, threatening to fire him on the spot unless he changed the ending to one where the alien would die. But then,
why do you think that is?
He did later admit that the ending that they went with was better. I think he wanted more of an ambiguous ending because it wasn't envisioned as a series.
Well, and I mean it completes the cycle if the alien does survive, because
Yeah.
that would explain how we got there in the first place. But I also think that the ending they went with really perpetuates the sort of final girl narrative, and it's a large part of the reason that I think this movie fits so neatly into the horror genre, even though
Hmm.
it doesn't really in a lot of ways fit the horror genre. It's more of like a sci-fi action movie in a lot of ways. But that sort of Ellen Ripley final girl like moment, I think in a lot of ways kind of solidifies this as like a horror type of movie, personally.
Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
otherwise I don't think it's a very scary movie. I mean, I didn't really find it that shocking or
I
suspenseful
think the
or any of
first
that
time
stuff.
I watched it when I didn't know anything about the Alien franchise, period, for me, it was suspenseful, it was thrilling, it was very creepy,
Mhm.
and especially for the time, I think it was scary.
I mean, I will say I did actually I remember getting jump scared like once,
Hmm.
maybe. Um I vaguely remember because I was kind of falling asleep during this movie.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
lie. Especially towards the ending sequences where it was like by the point I knew that this was just gonna be like a just a barrage of characters I don't care about dying, I was kind of really like nodding off a little bit. Um but what's funny is that like looking back on it, I do like a lot of things about the movie, but I still just feel like I don't know, there's just it's a lot of it very much falls into that category of horror where we have a lot of different characters that I'm not attached to, that I don't care about,
Mm.
who are gonna die in various brutal ways. And while I do love horror, and that's a very common trope in horror, I find it a lot of times kind of less interesting just because I'm like I don't know, like these characters are just a vehicle for a
I
like
will
death
say,
scene, and that's kind of all they are.
this movie definitely was before the big slasher boom of the 80s.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been that long before. Hold on. When
It's like the
was
Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets, all of those didn't come until the heyday of like the 80s slasher craze.
but Halloween came out in 1978.
Yeah, that was like a year before.
Yeah.
I'm saying like
But
these
then
tropes
also
of the final girl and the
mm,
group of
I
people that are
mean
just
Texas
destined
Chainsaw
to
Massacre came out
die.
in 1976.
I'm just saying like
So
it wasn't a super established tired trope at this point.
no, I honestly I still don't think the final girl is a tired trope. I would say if anything, it's almost like a necessity in certain types of horror
Mm-hmm.
media, or else it doesn't work. But I would I mean I obviously don't know. I mean obviously it wasn't as common as established back then, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a lot of ways was like the sort of like pseudo blueprint for what became the slasher franchise in the early to mid 70s. I think it was 76, I believe. And then Halloween would have come out like a year before this. And Halloween like solidified the final girl trope as a thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the reason that the studio like required that ending. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like because I'm Halloween was very successful on release, right?
Yeah, I mean it was pretty sensational at the time, I think.
Yeah.
And this film was very successful. Do you have any guesses for the budget and the box office?
Budget $300,000.
Way more than that.
Really?
This was a 20th Century Fox film.
Yeah, but
This
money
was
was
a
more
big
valuable back
budget.
then.
It was $11 million.
$11 million for
Yeah.
that? Okay.
I mean, this is a very extensive set. Like we had Tom Skerritt. We had like costuming that was very expensive to do, like the xenomorph costume. The effects for like all the stuff for like the eggs, the face hugger. Like there's so much in this movie.
Yeah, and I guess they did have to actually build everything, like
Yeah.
the spaceships and everything.
And then it pulled in. Do you want to? Okay, so if it cost 11 million to make, how much do you think it grossed at the box office?
100 million.
187 million off of an $11 million budget. So this
Okay.
was like,
I mean,
extremely successful.
yeah. I I think part of my disillusion with this film is that I think I've accepted at this point in my life that the sci-fi genre will always be lost on me. I don't find it interesting. It's not engaging to me. It's not a world I want to like be in. Like, and I can get into like most genres. Like I like fucking romance, horror, fucking fantasy. Like I like okay, I most fantasy. I will say like high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings type shit. I do also really struggle to get into that. Um, which is funny because I love like World of Warcraft and like fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. But like that's sort of like war elves running through the forest bullshit. I just can't get into it. I don't know why. But like anyway, I just don't care about sci-fi. I don't want to go to space. I don't want to be in a spaceship. I don't want to have spaceship office politics with people. I just don't care about any of that. And I don't think I'll ever understand why people care about it. Like it doesn't interest me. I feel like
I'm not opposed to space. It's not my favorite. Like sci-fi isn't my go-to. But one thing that this movie does have, and it's what I always talk about, is one of my favorite things in movies is a very like limited location and cast. Because I think you can create the better movies when you're very focused on like a singular place and a singular group of people, rather than like trying to span a country or something, or like constantly hopping scenes to like different locations that you don't really get to explore in depth.
Yeah, I would agree.
So it's like a haunted house, but it's a haunted house floating in space that you can't escape from.
Yeah. How do you think the movie feels about abortion?
I think this movie is very I think it's very pro-abortion. It's like get that baby out.
I think I would
Flush it out
agree.
into space.
I think this film it focuses a lot on the horrors of birth and pregnancy.
Yeah,
and
like
especially
forced
the horrors
impregnation.
of, and the not even just the forced impregnation, but the horrors of like being forced to give birth.
Yeah.
The sort of like pro-birthing type of like society and life where it's like we make you give birth at all costs, even at the cost of your own
I was gonna say,
life and
I think it's
dignity.
very telling that when one character's life is very much in danger because of them being impregnated, there's a character that is very adamant about we need to like protect this creature. Essentially, we need to bring it on board, we need to keep it safe, you know, Ash protecting the facehugger essentially, and making sure they don't interrupt its impregnation, because
and
you
I
later find out he knows what the facehugger is doing.
Yeah, and I saw
happening.
Somebody, a lot of the people that I see kind of talking about the birth element, they don't go too far into the abortion thing, but I do think that's an important topic because it's like you can't talk about like birth and life and pregnancy and all that stuff without talking about the concept of also terminating pregnancies. Like that is an important element, especially in horror. And I do think that they do dive into it specifically with Ash. He very much represents the sort of like pro life, but really pro life means pro birth. Like they don't actually care about life. They just want you to birth things. So like,
but he obviously doesn't care about any of the lives on board. They're expendable.
No, which is like literally the people who call themselves pro life. It's literally the people who call themselves pro life, they don't actually care about life. They just want you to birth things. And he is literally that. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that the very pro-life acting character is a robot who quite literally wants them all to die. It feels like whoever what's his name, the guy who made this movie,
Ridley Scott.
It seems like Ridley Scott fucking hates pro-lifers. Like Ridley, at least from what I was kind of feeling,
pregnancy and birth is freaky as hell. He doesn't want any part of it.
I mean, I firmly believe that pregnancy is body horror, like period. And I don't even think that's like a controversial statement. I mean, it's really terrifying.
I really do think that our society does not prepare people for the absolute horror that is pregnancy.
No, because most people wouldn't fucking do it.
They glamorize it and they make it seem like this wonderful, beautiful thing, which I mean, it is. We have to do it. But
well, there's also this element of, and I only know about this because I know a lot of people who have given birth. There's this element of like human nature that like after you give birth, your body represses a lot of the horror of it, and it makes you think like, oh, that wasn't too bad, let's do it again. And then as you do it like the second and third time, you start to like those sort of traumatic memories of how horrible it was start to kind of come back as you're re-experiencing them and re-traumatizing yourself. So like there is an element of like the human body quite literally as a defense mechanism represses a lot of the trauma of giving birth, so you'll do it again later. Which is, I think that's part of why it's so romanticized even amongst people who have given birth before, because you do actually kind of repress a lot of it.
Do you want to see what the original concept art for the xenomorph was that was made by H.R. Giger?
Sure.
And I guess I'll also put it in here somewhere if I remember to. Because like this was his original vision, and you can see it's way more overtly phallic in a lot of ways.
So much penis.
Yeah. They had to like pare down a lot of the details, and they wanted to, I think taking away the visible eyes was a great choice. But they had to smooth out a lot of this stuff because of production costs.
I really like his very humanoid looking hands.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I don't remember what his hands look like in the movie.
You don't really see them a whole lot.
Oh.
But Giger was obviously a huge part of what made this movie visually distinct, because like the derelict ship, the alien design, the face huggers, the eggs, all of that is him. And I think it really, really flavors this movie a lot.
What's funny about this movie, and I do think this is by design, is that despite all of the like sexual elements, there's almost nothing sexy about this movie.
Yeah, no. It's sexual, but it's not like sensual. It's not like,
no, it's the exact opposite.
Attractive.
It's like really supposed to be like, it's like they're very much doing the mechanical acts of sex so many different times in so many different ways, but only in a way that's horrifying and unappealing to the average person. And I would go as far as to say, like, no offense to the actors, there's not really even any like attractive people you would want to fuck on this ship. I know some people think Sigourney Weaver's hot, which is, I mean, I'm nowhere to judge that as a homosexual.
I think she's hot.
Yeah. I do think the doctor was kind of the robot daddy doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's maybe the one person I'm like, he's kind of
I
hot,
think
but
you were
like,
searching for something to attach yourself to in this movie. You were like, I
yeah,
need to
there's.
find one of them hot. I
I mean,
need
literally,
to.
my second or third thing I wrote down is why isn't anyone hot?
Hmm.
Everyone's hair was terrible, terrible hair, horrible.
I don't mind Ripley's hair. She has something
I
going on at
do.
least.
I mean, it's iconic, but is it hot?
I mean, she doesn't have seed of Chucky hair
Wow,
like
some people think that's
Lambert.
hot. That could be hot. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Overall,
Hmm.
okay. Let's do our segment where we talk about what would you change about the movie.
Would I change?
Yeah.
Oh.
What problem is there to fix
I
here?
literally the only things I would change would probably be more technical than anything because like I like it overall. I love this movie. The only thing I would ever change is like there's some scenes that could be mic'd better. There's some scenes that could be like
Yeah, just like fine tuning the
yeah, like
actual
fine tuning
like.
the actual like technical aspects of the movie.
That's fair. I think a lot of that's just because it's the 70s. I mean, you have to remember like they don't have the type of like really easy small technology that we do these days to
Yeah, and
film
the type of
movies.
set that it was on was extremely difficult to shoot
Yeah.
in.
And it's like there's
Uh
some fucking dude holding a massive boom mic off to the side with
yeah.
fucking 10 cameras, 10 giant cameras moving
But like
around.
overall, I love this movie. I love the vibe. I love the visuals. I love like I just enjoy it so much that I'm like there's not much I would change. Honestly, I wouldn't restructure it really. Like sure, maybe there's some scenes you could take out to cut down the runtime in the early movie or something, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I love it. It's a classic to me.
I would change a lot, but and I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I do think that there's a lot of things about this movie that, and ironically, a lot of people like praise this movie for its pacing. I thought the pacing was absolutely atrocious, especially
See,
early in the film.
I love that they
There's a lot
don't
of
move too
scenes of people
fast.
doing stuff
Hmm.
that doesn't matter. Like it's almost like it's this movie is plagued with cutaway shots of side characters that aren't interesting and aren't relatable doing something that's not interesting and also not important, like something technical on the ship or whatever. And it's like that happens so much in the early parts of the movie that I was so confused. I was like, what are they even doing at some point? Like, I was like, why are we over here talking to these people looking at this fucking air vent and all this? Like, who cares? Like, what is this about? And I don't know
Hmm.
if maybe that's for the fucking nerds that care about spaceships or whatever, but like, it just didn't seem important. And maybe I missed where it became important later, but like, there was a lot of that kind of stuff. And I also think that there was a real serious lack of character development in these moments where they could have used these scenes to actually flesh out some of these really two-dimensional side characters who I can't even remember their fucking names, but like they kind of don't. It's like we don't know anything about these people throughout the entire movie. We don't know if they have kids, if they have a family, if there is this like their career, how long have they been doing this? Like we don't know anything about these people. They are just fucking eight strangers on a ship that never get any real development outside of the completing the directives and tasks they are assigned in this moment. And I think part of me struggles with sci-fi because I think that's a really common thing in a lot of sci-fi, especially like when I think of like Star Trek. It's like how often is that like it's like they just have like a task to do and I'm the guy who does that task until I die. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That I would have changed. I also thought overall I just found the movie like really fucking ugly. Like I found the sets and the costumes really fucking ugly. The monster design cool, but like so much about the other design elements were just like so aesthetically displeasing, and I understand that that is in some ways by design, but it's just like god, I just wish things could be like pretty. Why can't things just be pretty?
See, I love it. I love the aesthetic of the ship. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Other than that, I've got a laundry list of things I would change about this
okay, well, we
movie.
want to keep this
Clearly,
under 2 hours, though.
yeah, yeah. Other than that, and this is something that apparently is something that a lot of people have critiqued about. Like there was some cutting of scenes that actually explain a little bit about more about the aliens birthing process. There was like
Mhm.
an original scene that was cut where they actually showed the alien like cocooning the people up
Yeah,
into little
we
cocoons
get
or
into that into
something.
the next movie.
Right, which that would have been helpful because I will say I got very confused about the birth cycle of this alien and why it had so many different forms, and a lot of the form changing kind of happens off scene, and then it's like it just I don't know, like that kind of stuff. I was like, this is just confusing. Like, what is this about?
Yeah, we get into that stuff. They save that for um aliens in the
Yeah,
next one.
and that's fair. I just feel like since the movie is about birthing, I would have liked a more I would have
I
liked to
get
be
it. You
less
want more
confused
birthing.
about the birthing. I just because the life cycle of these creatures I found complicated, but also like it seemed important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Um, is there anything else that major I would change about the movie? Honestly, fuck the spaceship. Let's just do this on like a fucking. Just change the whole set.
Please.
Let's just make this not a sci-fi movie. Can we do this like I don't
It's
know
gonna be in a
in a
cabin.
fucking yeah like in a cabin or something like literally. I will say if this movie took place in a house, it would be much more scary because I live in a house.
Oh yeah, you do.
I don't live in a fucking spaceship. But like if there was an alien in a house, that's way scarier. Tell me I'm fucking wrong.
Sure. You're wrong.
I feel like I sound like I hated this movie, and I want to express that I didn't hate this movie. I just think that it's I I think this movie very unfortunately because I'm watching it for the first time in 2024, it was a groundbreaking film that defined a genre in its time and was
Mm.
it did a lot of firsts. But as somebody who was watching it in
You've seen
2024,
everything that's been directly inspired by this movie.
yeah, so it's like I've already seen what this movie like the industry that was shaped by this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing it doing the shaping is not that impressive. It's kind of like have you ever do you know the play A Doll's House?
Can't get into this. We need to keep this under 2 hours.
Do you know the play A Doll's House?
No, of course I don't.
There's a very famous Henrik Ibsen play called A Doll's House, and it's the most cliche shit you'll ever read in your life. It's not interesting. It's so fucking boring.
Great.
And the play caused riots because at the time it was so fucking groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's the same plot you can see in any fucking Lifetime original movie. And that's how
Yeah.
I feel about this fucking movie. It's like the Doll's House of fucking sci-fi.
Yeah. It inspires so many things. And so you've seen every derivative of this. And so therefore this
Yeah.
seems like a derivative because you've seen all the offshoots of it.
It doesn't even seem derivative. It seems like a simplistic, more boring version of most sci-fi.
Yeah.
So
So how many ugly pairs of granny panties would you give this movie out of
how
10?
many are we allowed? Out of 10? Oh God. If we're talking about for what this movie did for like horror and sci-fi moving forward,
Sure.
maybe like an I don't know, like an 8 out of 10.
Work. Okay.
If we're talking
everyone's
about
gonna
my
give it an
own
8.
personal feelings about this movie, like a 2.
Okay, great. Very polarizing.
One for Jizzy Doctor
Yeah.
and 2 for Sigourney Weaver being a great actress.
There you go. That's all you need. All you
That's
need is
literally
2.
all I liked.
I give it an 8 out of 10.
You know what? Let's give it 3 because I like the penis alien.
Yeah.
We'll give it 3 out of 10.
I think it's inventive. I think it's groundbreaking. And I think it's fabulous. I love it. I love this movie.
I'm glad you do.
I like you, Alien.
I would never watch that movie again.
Okay, great. Well, you don't have to.
Thank God.
So you excited to get into Aliens next?
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
You're gonna hate all these movies, and then you're gonna be like, I don't even want to watch Alien Romulus anymore.
No, I'm not. But I am gonna get revenge on you later when I make you watch something that you fucking hate. I can't wait.
I want to be clear. I'm not forcing you to watch this. You wanted to see Alien Romulus.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You expressed interest in seeing Alien Romulus.
I think you're imagining that.
You can't gaslight me on this. We've discussed what movies we want to watch and what movies are like current and like topical. And when I brought up Alien Romulus, you're like, yeah. You were never like, ugh, I hate sci-fi movies and I don't want to watch that movie.
We
don't have to watch.
I mean, I'll watch anything, but I will complain about it.
If you don't want to watch it, we don't have to watch it.
Well, I mean, we've already watched one.
Yeah,
Can we just skip to that one? Do we have to watch the next one?
I just thought it would be good because I think it either takes place, Alien Romulus either takes place after Alien, like between these two movies, or after Aliens in the timeline. So I thought it would be important because especially these first two movies establish a lot about the alien creature in the world. So I think it would be more impressive to watch Alien Romulus if you have this knowledge in your body.
Okay. I mean, we'll see.
Great. I'm so glad we're excited about this.
Yeah.
So eager.
So excited. So thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what's going to happen is you're going to be like, well, everybody loves Aliens. You'll probably like that one better. And then I'm going to be like, I hated that one more. It sounds worse. It's like I already hate sci-fi, and then it's moving from the horror sci-fi into the action sci-fi, which is like the type of sci-fi I hate the most.
Great.
Sounds terrible.
Great. Can't wait. And if you want to watch Aliens with us, you can join our Patreon.
Yeah, so if you join the Patreon, we're now recording the actual watch parties. So you're more than welcome to watch along with us. If you want to see our live reactions, we also will be doing live watch parties as well, which we've been doing, but we will continue to do for the films that we're watching for the podcast.
Yeah.
And make sure you rate and comment and all that stuff as well. Like and comment and rate our podcast. I want to read our podcast reviews.
Same.
We haven't gotten enough to really react to anything, but if you want to rate and review us,
read
we can
all of your
fucking react to that
comments.
shit.
Yeah, and
okay,
we're
not gonna read it. Oh, I have to try like live on the podcast. I was gonna say,
yeah,
we don't have fucking time for that. Can you imagine us reading all of the comments? We're already going over every time we talk about a movie.
True. I really thought this podcast episode was going to be shorter than Cats because Cats was so insane. But you surprisingly had a lot to say about this movie.
I've got a lot of petty grievances.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, if I don't like a movie, I will have more to say about it.
You know what? That's fair. We had a lot to say about Tarot.
Yeah.
We said a lot more than the movie did.
Any final thoughts on Alien?
I love it. It's a very near and dear movie to my heart, and I never get tired of watching it.
I wish I could relate.
Great.
Great. Anyways,
we'll see you next
join us next time. Bye.
Bye.